Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. So Zohran Mamdani, the communist mayor from New York, is under fire because residents are now taking to the streets and demanding that Zohran Mamdani be removed from office. And the interesting part is that this comes after a guy tried to take the life of a Jewish person, and now the residents, they're fed up with Zohran Mamdani. They want him gone because they believe Zohran Mamdani and his rhetoric is the reason why you have these issues happening in New York City.
I'm formally requesting that the United States Department of Justice open a civil rights investigation into New York City, New York State, and Mayor Mamdani.
As I mentioned before, the residents of New York, they're pretty upset with Zohran Mamdani because of his anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic rhetoric that he's been pushing. And I mentioned that this guy in New York, he's allegedly being accused of stabbing two individuals. One is a Jewish person and one is an Asian individual. And I guess when he stabbed that Jewish person, there are reports saying that he yelled, Allah Akbar. And a lot of people are saying it's because of Zohran Mamdani's rhetoric is the reason why you are seeing these attacks. And the thing is, Zohran Mamdani, he actually responded to this attack. He tried to condemn it, but a lot of people, residents of New York, specifically the Jewish community, they're thinking that it's a little bit too late. And here we have a reporting on exactly what took place and Zohran Mamdani's response. Watch this.
Communities say his words are too little, too late. CB Cotton, live in New York City with more on that story. CB.
Hey, John. So Mayor Zohran Mamdani is repeatedly denouncing hate and anti-Semitism after this stream of public criticism from community leaders who say his rhetoric on Israel has created division. This criticism follows this week's stabbing attack. The suspect, Raul Morales, was arraigned last night on 2 counts of attempted murder, 2 counts of assault, and 1 count of attempted assault, all of which are being tried as hate crimes. Investigators say witnesses heard Morales yell, Allahu Akbar, before stabbing that Jewish man and Asian man on New York City's Upper West Side. According to the Manhattan DA's office, the Jewish man was wearing a yarmulke and had just left a synagogue. The attack happened just days after Mamdani called Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu a war criminal and said the federal government should arrest Netanyahu. In response to the fallout, Mamdani has insisted his criticism is directed at the Israeli government and not Jewish people or the Jewish faith.
Here's the thing. I get it that people have different political beliefs, different political aspirations, and all these different things. But at the end of the day, what we have to understand, Zohran Mamdani, he's a mayor. And what he's doing, he's using his office to essentially push his political agenda by speaking out against certain things that's going on in a country that has nothing to do with New York City. He doesn't serve in the federal government. He doesn't serve as a part of the State Department. But every day, Zohran Mamdani, he's up there pretty much saying that there's a whole bunch of stuff happening in Gaza, in Palestine, all over the world. But at the end of the day, that's not his business. His business is to focus on what's going on in New York City. And when you push those political ideologies, guess what? People that support you, what they're going to do, they're going to demonize those specific communities in New York City, like the Jewish community. And one thing we have to remember as well is that Zohran Mamdani, his administration, there are folks, officials in his administration that was about to meet with Iran. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why is a mayor meeting with a foreign country, a foreign nation? Then Zohran Mamdani, what he's threatened to do was to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. Like, why? You are a mayor. Why are you focusing on international issues? And don't forget when his wife actually tweeted about October 7th, which was the day when Hamas attacked Israel. And this is what she had to say. Here we have a reporting on that as a reminder. Watch this.
His his team, his wife was celebrating the October 7th attacks 24 hours after it happened. Mamdani, was rallying that it was a genocide less than a week after it happened. So they were saying it was a genocide and war criminal before Israel even really responded. They felt this way before. It's almost convenient for them that this has happened because they can say it publicly. But absolutely, when you have the mayor of a city who's continually demonizing Israel and Jews, what do you expect to happen? You have one Looney Tune yelling Allah Akbar and stabbing somebody. He has to look himself in the mirror. What scares me, Stuart, I'm not sure he cares.
Here's my thing. America should be focusing on Americans. And Zohran Mamdani was elected by Americans to lead New York City. President Trump was elected by the American people to focus on what's going on outside the country as well as in. That's not Zohran Mamdani's job. So what Zohran Mamdani is doing is using his office to push his political ideology and projecting that hate onto other folks, which is affecting groups within the United States, American citizens, specifically the Jewish community, which is why the residents of New York City, they're so upset with Zohran Mamdani. And as I mentioned before, Zohran Mamdani, he threatened to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu, but that didn't work out. And after that failed, he went on camera. He said they failed. They're not going to be able to do it. And then Zohran Mamdani, he actually called for protesters to take to the streets.
Socialist Mayor Zohran Mamdani is backing off of his threat to arrest Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu when he attends the United Nations General Assembly this September, admitting he does not have the authority to do such a thing. But Mamdani is still trying to fire up activists, urging anti-Israel protesters to make their voices heard when the Prime Minister visits New York. Watch.
I'm simply saying that this is a city where if anyone feels a level of frustration or opposition, protest is something that we will always respect. I leave it to New Yorkers themselves to make that decision. And when it comes to Palestinian New Yorkers who are disappointed, I understand it, because we are talking about someone who has been charged with crimes against humanity, someone who has visited the city on many an occasion and who has been welcomed by previous mayors. And I want to make it very clear that that welcome ends with me. I will not be welcoming Benjamin Netanyahu or any other war criminals when they come to this city.
That was Zohran Mamdani calling on anti-Israel protesters to take to the streets and protest against all these alleged war crimes and all these different things. And then he's saying sorry to these Palestinian Americans. And the question is why? Why, as a mayor, you're focusing on what's going on in Palestine, in Gaza, in Israel, all over the world? That is what I'm trying to figure out. Why are you trying to play foreign policy? And what I've noticed is that America has become the battleground for all these political ideologies from all around the world, all these issues from all around the world. America has become the battleground. And the question is why? Why are we letting all these folks into this country to bring all their baggage and issues where they're fighting it out in American politics? Why? And to show you exactly what I'm talking about, here we have Zohran Mamdani being confronted on his hypocrisy because he's calling for the arrest of Benjamin Netanyahu, trying to use the ICC, which is the International Criminal Court, to justify why he wants to arrest the head of a sovereign nation. And then when President Trump went to Venezuela and Marco Rubio, they went down there and they snatched up Maduro and brought him here. Zohran Mamdani was one of the politicians that were speaking up against what happened.
About why Netanyahu specifically is often targeted in some of your comments. For example, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, he was arrested for a warrant that was here in the U.S., and you were very against that. So I guess how do you place more emphasis on the warrants that were issued by the International Criminal Court than here in the U.S.? How do you reconcile those two?
I would say that the International Criminal Court is a body that seeks to hold those across the world accountable for crimes against humanity, for war crimes, for things of that nature. And I think that the United States should not only be a party to that court, but should also execute the warrants that that court issues. And what I have spoken up about Nicolas Maduro, who I've also described appropriately as a dictator, is that the violation of international law is one that has to also be taken very seriously. It stems from the same belief in the International Criminal Court. And now he is here in New York City. On that day when the United States did violate international law, I made clear that I was in opposition to that. And it all stems from the same belief in.
And that brings us to the end of this video. Please let me know what you think in the comment section below. Also, please consider liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. And I'll see you in the next video.